Hey, so I'm back live streaming. Been a couple months, and I woke up this morning and just decided, man, I just got to start doing this again because I really love people. I love to talk to people, and so I reached out to a few people, and Richard, my good friend from just over there across the river. I could throw a stone practically and hit his house if I knew where he lived, but he lives in Hollowell. So he had joined. He agreed to come on, almost instantly. So he's here. He's hiding in the background of the studio. You can't see him yet because I haven't brought him in. But I wanted to start today's show by introducing you to Richard's X account, and I wanted to say, by way of introduction, that this use of the internet is the most brilliant and potent use of the internet that I've ever seen. And I've been using the internet since I was one of the earliest in Maine to use it politically, to use the internet politically. And when I started to use it effectively, I was using email as a broadcast platform and I would produce an email every day, Monday through Friday, in the morning at the same time. And I did it for years, a couple of years, almost as soon as email appeared as a thing, and it got some public traction outside the workplace. I started doing that Monday through Friday, very short email. I hit 3 issues. I gave kind of a newsy opinion, sort of a content narrative to it, and I called it the issue summary. And so I'm very aware of the internet and its vibe, its culture, et cetera, et cetera. Here in Maine, this guy here, who you're going to meet in a minute, and I've interviewed him before, is literally the best. He's the most potent force for good on the internet in the state of Maine. And I like Steve Robinson. I like the Maine Wire. I like what Steve's doing in terms of journalism, and so I want to hasten but this is the most unique and powerful political use of the internet in Maine, bar none, that I've seen. Now, I haven't seen everybody that's in Maine who's doing political work, so I'm going to be quick to add that maybe you're doing better. Well, if you are, then you need to send me an email. The email's scrolling across the bottom. If you think you're doing better than Richard, then I want to hear from you. So anyway, this is I'm going to bring him in here because I want to ask him some questions. And I want to let him talk. Richard loves to talk like I do. So here he is, Richard. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I am so honored, really. I'm not just trying to blow smoke up your butt, to be able to have this conversation with you. It's especially at such a critical moment, politically speaking and culturally speaking, in the world, right? I mean, with this assassination of Charlie Kirk, and with the internet basically providing the lion's share of the interpretation of that event, which was just 1 week ago today, and me allowing that you're the guy who's making the most potent political use of the internet. I mean, I feel like this is like a divine appointment to be talking to you. So yeah. What do you think? Just what's your short snapshot, hot take on Charlie's assassination?
The short hot take. So a lot of people said it feels different than Donald Trump's assassination attempt, and it is, but it's not what people think it's about. So a lot of podcasters have been like, this feels different. Trump was a politician. He's putting himself out there. No one would think that it was a good thing, but it felt different with Charlie Kirk. And the reason it feels different is the attempt, the actual assassination attempt, and then the response And what it showed was that the average American, they're willing to take them out, right? And that's like you or me. It's like anybody. If you're out there speaking, it doesn't matter if you're extreme, if you're not extreme. Charlie Kirk was moderate by all means. And it doesn't matter. We'll take you out, and then we'll either obfuscate or we'll justify why we took you out. And that's what kind of woke up a lot of Americans, I believe. And the West in general. Like it's going wild. Does that mean that in a week from now we'll be winning all over the place? I don't know about that, but it definitely woke up a lot of people. But I mean, you and I knew this stuff, right? Like, how much time did you spend trying to convince people this was a problem in your life?
Oh, you mean when you say this, you mean left of center politics?
Yeah, and I know I hate to use the left part, but like this rot, we'll just call it the rot, like this evil rot. How many hours have you sat there trying to convince people over and over again? And they're like, and you can just tell they're not engaging. They didn't think it was a problem. They think that we were off, right? Like there's never been like when I saw this, I wasn't shocked at all. There wasn't even an ounce of shock. I wasn't shocked when they tried to do it. Yeah, with Trump, it sucked. It sucked, and it was like I felt that rage build up, but there was no shock. Other people were shocked. I know people in real life that call me, like I have family members, and they're going, "What the heck?" And it's like, yeah, you're surprised. I'm not surprised in the least bit. We've been telling you this.
The best analogy I heard was from a friend, someone a book author who I met this spring, and he said it reminded him of sitting at a campfire, toasting a marshmallow, and seeing the marshmallow light on fire.
Yeah. yeah.
You think about that, right?
So,
and so what's the point? The guy's point is like we all sit around the campfire, right, with our marshmallow. That's social media, right?
Yeah.
The internet. We all sit around with our marshmallow passively, trying to make sure we don't get too close to the fire, especially on Facebook, and a little less so on X. But we sit there with our marshmallow, right? Calibrating our movements, and then it lights on fire, and we go, "Oh well."
Yeah. Oh well.
So that's the way I felt. That's the way I felt when Charlie was killed, and that's not being, when I saw that, the first thing I saw was on X. I learned about it on X visually first, and I didn't click on the video. X is like that, right? It plays the video as you scroll, and I did not want to see that image.
I never saw it.
Yeah, I saw it twice. I watched it twice in quote real time, and my immediate thought, I told my wife, I said, "He's dead." When I said he's dead, and of course it took like 1 or 2 hours to, because remember in the beginning there was the white guy who got arrested who said he did it, and then there was Glenn Beck, and everybody was saying, well, maybe he's going to pull out, and maybe he's going to pull through, and so we went through those 2 hours, but right at the beginning of those 2 hours, I saw the video and I said to my wife, "He's dead. No way he lived through that. No way." And but I didn't feel anything deep at the time other than revulsion at the image. And my instant thought was, it's AI. I don't trust this. This is AI.
I know, right?
This is fake, right? That's what I thought. And so I think that's a crucial part of this whole emerging narrative related to his assassination, which is, where's the truth? And how are we going to know even whether it happened at all? Because, one thing people are saying is, where was the crime tape? Where was the crime scene? Where was the lockdown from law enforcement to make sure that the evidence was preserved? Right? What do we do about that? Well, another question, where's all the HD video that space at that university had hundreds of cameras that were recording.
I mean, it's probably too early. I mean, it would be interesting to see how many people have recordings of the situation, because I mean, how many people have their phones out? I haven't looked. I mean, I guess I could go online, and I'm sure there's websites where all the students are like, they're filming it, but then again, they're running, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's definitely hard times. It's easy to in the beginning, I think, criticize every detail, and then start to. I just stay impartial. I'm not. I try to stay unemotionally attached as much as possible with these type of things, and just wait.
Yeah, me too.
Because there are weird details, but you don't always know what these weird. So like people are talking about the note, the text messages, right?
Yeah.
And to me, my first indication of how I would be, like, I'm like, put my mind inside those two guys that are roommates, is that he left a note, and that note is probably him saying, I'm going to ask you all these questions. This is how you're going to respond. This is how we're going to protect you. And if you look underneath the keyboard, because they're not stupid, they grew up on the internet and they know everything's recorded, so they're going to plan accordingly with that. So what happens is the situation happens, and then he probably left a note that says, this is what you need to do in this scenario. So the roommate probably lifted it up and said, I'm going to ask you this question, respond this way. I'm going to ask you this question, respond this way. Because the questions were odd to me. They weren't natural, but I don't think that they were unnatural because the FBI made it up. I think they're unnatural because they planned it. Because what it does is it covers every single detail while making everyone else, the entire purpose of the text message exchange makes him an isolated individual, and it cuts all ties from all others. That's really what the only outcome of that email exchange. Doesn't give you new information, doesn't give you details about anything. All it does is it absolves everyone else from liability or responsibility, rather. Right?
Right. I haven't paid any attention to this guy, whatever his name is, that they claim has done the shooting. My brain is still stuck on video evidence. Where's the video evidence? Because I'm kind of stuck on the idea of this, they got a video of this guy climbing down, but like there's no gun, and all these, it's like, come on, do a better job. Because like I said, you've got 100 cameras that were rolling in that space, in that university.
So, but here, okay, I do get that. But if you had like a situation where there was a murder, would let's just say it's a local police department, would they just gather all the camera evidence and then post it online, or do they hold the evidence and they try to use it as because?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I wouldn't expect that to happen. If by the end of this we don't see anything, then I'm going to be like, what the heck? I think everyone will be asking questions. But
right, and also the crime scene issue. Why wasn't there a crime scene?
I heard that there was a crime scene, so I don't know what information you're getting from that. Because in the text messages, the guy's actually talking about the crime scene, isn't he? Saying that he can't get close to the area because they have it all. Like, I think he specifically is talking about it with his friend.
If there was a crime scene with tape and everything, then it wasn't set up very quickly. It wasn't set up very quickly because there were people up there tampering with the security team. Is seen in a video removing an SD card or something from the camera that was behind Charlie.
Yeah, and here's actually where it gets. You have to. It can get confusing, and this isn't going to be casting blame or doubt about. Okay, let's just say you have 100 to 500 people working on this. I have no idea the numbers. Mm-hmm. There's going to be some that are ideologically aligned with this guy. Mm-hmm. Why would they not try to ruin the evidence? Like the guy that yelled, I shot him, right? Like they move as a collective. And we see this in firsthand. Like you'll have a business, 500 employees, 5 of them are radical leftists. They know that the owner is a conservative. They act normal, but then behind the scenes, every action they do is designed to actually thwart the business, destroy the business. And then, so what's happening is that they're being fed false information. Things don't feel right. They're like, why is this happening? So we don't know if someone's working along or like, let's just mess this up real quick. And then they could say, I didn't mean to. It's plausible deniability. We saw this with DEI, right?
Mhm.
So they would use DEI to bring on a radical leftist into organizations. DEI wasn't actually about trying to get different ethnicities, right? You're not going to pull on a black conservative, but what they do is they use it to pull people in. And then when they mess up, right, they can blame it on DEI. The public will blame it on DEI. But the whole purpose was to actually bring in radical leftists to destroy the company from within. Like this is all documented. I try to explain this to people, and they go, "What?" All they have is the told narrative that, oh, they're a DEI hire, and they accidentally drove the aircraft carrier into capsized it, right? Like you have all these indications of all these DEI hires destroying billions of dollars of equipment all throughout the West, and people go, "Oh, it's because they're female or they're black." It's like, no, this is the purpose. They're infiltrating it using So, anyways. So that's why right now information is like, I know what you're going through.
Yeah, and then
it's hard, right?
And then the other thing that happens, I agree with everything you said,
Yep.
which is the militant version of the culture war. In other words, there's a strategy, there's an intention, there's a teleology to this minority being within the business, within the bigger business, and the end goal, of course, being the destruction of the business, as you said. But then there's also, and I think this is more prevalent, there's a small minority of DEI people within that are very intentional in their convictions and in their narratives, but they're not necessarily strategic. In other words, they're not necessarily going after the destruction of the business. They're simply being the minority within the workplace, and they're masters at psychologically playing the victim, being the victim, living as the victim. And because during my lifetime, the boomers decided to endorse, promote, and fund DEI principles being taught ubiquitously in the West, in every company, in every school. This has been taught. These principles have been taught. And so then what happens in the workplace? Well, all the good people like you or I or whatever, we want to give the benefit of the doubt, because we supported this. Oh, who am I to judge someone based on their sexual orientation? They're a victim. They're a victim. And so then I've personally experienced this countless times in Maine workplaces. The older folks who were taken through DEI training and bought into it, they become the aggressors in a social sense within the workplace, protecting the victim. Protecting who they perceive to be the victim. They feel it's their job, particularly older women. They feel it's their job to protect the victim in the workplace. But they won't do it to your face.
No,
it never happens to you. Never happens to your face. Never happens to your face. It's always you're always digging knives out of your back, or it's gossip, that kind of thing. And I know what I'm saying. People are nodding their heads and things, but boomers are having a very hard time taking responsibility for this. They're having a really hard time seeing this in themselves.
Yeah, and I try not to collectivize people by any category, like boomers.
Yeah, me too.
You're good about doing that. But then once you look at the scenarios, that, like, okay, remember the bombing situation that happened in Yemen, where someone had leaked out the information of the Trump administration about to do the bombing stuff. People are going, this doesn't make any sense. Why did this happen? Why did this happen? And it's likely that someone just leaked it, right? They were inside the Signal chat or whatever chat they were using, and they just leaked it. You just have to assume that the entire country is filled with people that hate the country, infiltrated it. And so any information you get could be confusing or incorrect. it's weird. And you have to start to learn to trust your instincts and just assume that every situation could be, it's things that look like they're trying to hide or fake it could just be people that are messing stuff up. And anyone that's really, okay, let's just say you get someone that's on the far left that's infiltrated something and they're highly intelligent. They know how to manipulate the public and make scenarios look like they were actually false. Mm-hmm. Like if I was in that situation, I could do it easily. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
Like, you're on the scene. You got Mike Heath. He's on the scene, and then he leaks out to the reporters, right? Don't say my name, but I'm gonna be and say, yeah, they don't even know what they're doing. This, and then you just start planting information that just throws everyone off. Just like that old guy that said, "Hey, I'm the shooter," and then they found out he wasn't, and he specifically said he did it so the other guy could get away.
It's it's the most confusing and diabolical battle space that Maine has ever seen, has ever experienced. And I think that's one of the reasons you're so effective on X and Facebook, is because you really have mastered these principles of political guerrilla warfare using internet skills, internet tools. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and that it does circle back to how I'm using it. What frustrates me though, and I know you picked on the boomers a little bit before, it does frustrate me that it's 2025 and the majority of people that are my age and older can't even do the basic functions on the internet. And that's actually, and because there's people out there that could probably do what I'm doing way better. It's just that they chose never to learn the details. I have to spend so much time trying to teach people how to do like a very basic internet function that they should have learned 10, 20, 30 years ago. And this actually put them in, like you and Tim, you guys are nailing it, but I'll get people that are 40 years old that are around my age, and they can't even do anything except for log on to Facebook. How do I take a screenshot of this? I'm like, man, the amount of times I have to tell people how to take a screenshot or highlight a text or download a video and upload it. A lot of these people, it's just that they want to have the social media influence to help in fighting this culture battle with politics and such. They just don't know how to even upload a simple video. And so they're unable to even launch a Facebook page or any sort of account.
And you mentioned Tim, so I've got him up on the screen here. Yeah, we love you both, Tim and Jen. I want to talk about him with you in a moment. But before I do, I'm going to show another message. So he put this up here: check your DMs when you can. So all the boomers are going, what's a DMs? DMs. Well, I'm going to tell you, my fellow boomers, that means direct messages. So I went back to my Twitter client, X client, and I checked my DM from Tim, and DM on X. Yeah, he checks X. Okay, now I understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, because I asked him about getting Nick Blanchard on. You guys are like to me, you guys are the trinity of political effectiveness in Maine. Nick Blanchard, who goes by Corn Pop on X, and yourself, who lives in Hollowell. Nick lives just up, right? He lives just over in Augusta. And then Tim, who lives out in the woods.
But is that the truth though? You have to understand that the people that recognize that we're in a political conflict, there's a purpose, and I'm going to try to walk you through it. There's a purpose. The internet is an illusion, right? We're like these wizards of illusionists, and sometimes the goal is to create an illusion and concealment so that other people can actually effectively go behind the scenes, right? So not to throw someone out there, but like I chat with people that are organizing things and pushing all this forward, and we laugh so hard because they go, man, everyone's talking about you or this person, and they're behind the scenes organizing these actual events or getting stuff changed. And so like there's, I don't know if he'd want me to throw his name on, but we just talked about this, is that it's hard because the people that follow you, they also have a hard time figuring out exactly what's an illusion or not, but you kind of have to do that to throw off the opponents. And I'll watch the lefties, and they get misguided by everything. And so we're being very successful. And unfortunately, when you see your own allies incorrectly assessing the situation, unfortunately, that's also a good indication that what you're doing is correct. So like you want to get a lot of, like Tim, when he goes into like the school boards and he gets all the attention on him, everyone fails to miss the people that are actually organizing other tactics, right? And moving in, or let's just say doing a lawsuit or doing this. They can't, because if there's no entertainment or explosion, they could probably, because they're gonna be watching our accounts all the time, they could be like, oh my God, they're gonna do this. They can't predict our moves because they're so focused on watching like an explosion that in the school board meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
It's these folks I'm probably being too kind with the word folks, but I guess a boomerism, who are on the left, they really are dull.
Mason's comment. I love it. I love it.
Well, and there's another word that boomers just refuse to think about, which is the word troll, right?
I can fix it. I'll fix it for him. Who's probably the most famous trolls of our human history, or Western civilization? Socrates.
Famous trolls.
Yeah, the biggest trolls. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Come on. They were the trolls of their society. You go in there and you're throwing that's right. Like the whole purpose of them was to troll. Trolling in its art form is a form of philosophy, right? You can't be.
And most people don't even probably know that Plato ended up doing it so well that they forced him to kill himself.
Well, you're talking about
Plato, right?
Well,
no, Socrates.
Yeah.
Socrates.
Well, he didn't kill himself. He was in jail, and then he just refused to.
Right. He drank hemlock. Right. They forced him to drink poison.
Sorry.
Not Plato. Socrates.
But what was okay? Do you know the lineage of the trolls, of those trolls? Socrates. Who did he mentor?
Plato, right?
Yeah. And who did Plato mentor?
Aristotle.
And who did Aristotle mentor? Trust me.
Alexander the Great.
Yeah. And what did they do? Their culture went on to conquer the world. You have three trolls, three lineage of trolls. This is information you'll never get from school. You'll never learn this, right? That you have three master trolls that we still talk about thousands of years later. Their lineage, not only were their philosophies talked about forever, but their lineage actually led to the conquering of the world. It wasn't any small
the known world, right?
Yeah, the known world. Yeah. I always find it fascinating.
Well, and of course, those four, right, are luminaries of Western philosophy.
Mm-hmm. We carry that fun.
Right. Well, they're the architects of the philosophy that we're so proud of today, right? No. When we talk about Asia or the East or China or India or whatever, what are we so proud of? Well, we're proud of a lineage of thought that started with those guys. Started with Socrates. And
then every time that flame exploded, we went every time that flame came, we went to conquer the world, and then the flame dies, and then it gets held, and that knowledge is passed on to like the Roman Empire, and that flame gets lit up, and we go to conquer, and then that flame gets up. We do have a lineage, and every time they refine it, we have this weird lineage of Western civilization and culture that it probably started before the Greeks, but the best knowledge that we have would be to the Greeks and examples of that.
Right, and it does integrate a kind of violence, military violence that nobody's comfortable with, right? Nobody's comfortable. At least reasonable people are not. Humane people, good people, are not comfortable with Alexander the Great, for example. And once you dig in and get to know the details of how he established Greek rule using his military, he died before he was 31 or 2. He died young man, very, very young man. And his tactics were really brutal, burning everything down, killing everybody, men, women, children. And we've seen that occur in the West over and over and over again.
Well, and And so different cultures have different tactics. What did China do? Okay, here's one thing. Remember, all your life you've heard China has the one-child policy, right? Right?
Mhm.
You've heard that, and everyone criticizes it.
Right.
And did anyone ever stop you and go, Michael, if they had a one-child policy, how did their population explode to such a level that is hitting astronomical levels, right? Like how did their population explode? Because they enacted the one-child policy on their enemies. So they would take over Tibet, and they enacted the one-child policy on them. They didn't enact it on the Han, which are the ethnic groups within. Who else? The Uyghur Muslims, they enacted the one-child policy because what you're doing is you're reducing their population by half. When you go to war with another culture or an enemy, your purpose, your goal is to reduce the enemy's population. You can do that with kinetic warfare, or you could do that by actually reducing their birth rates. China has mastered the reduction of birth rates, and it's very successful. It's like an asymmetric, it's a different way of looking at war. If you can get a culture or population to actually hate their men and then reduce the birth rates, you can conquer those nations. And they've systematically done that throughout their culture. If you Google what is the ethnicity of Chinese, they are the largest homogenous group that exists on planet Earth, with I think 96 to 97% Han Chinese. That's impossible without massive ethnic cleansing. And they didn't just do it with kinetic warfare. They actually did it by controlling birth rates of individuals. You take a population, you say you can only have one child. You've now cut every generation down by 50%. Way more effective than going through and sending your troops against them and then putting yourself at risk of being conquered by other invaders because they see you're at war. So what they've done, keep going.
And what you're saying is, of course, written down millennia ago by Sun Tzu, which is tactics of warfare, which are studied by West Pointers and by Western military leaders. You're just describing Sun Tzu.
Yeah, so, 100%.
Yeah. Basically, the idea is, as you've just articulated, if you're at war with a people, you're going to do whatever it takes to defeat them.
Yeah.
Full stop. Whereas the West kind of, and as long as it takes, no matter what it takes, how much death, genocide, whatever, that's, if it's war, then all that stuff's justified. But of course, the West developed through the Middle Ages under Augustine's teaching of just war. War is only, you undertake war only under certain realities. Just war, it's called the just war principle, and it limits warfare. Supposed to limit war, contain it, and lead to surrenders and negotiated settlements and coexistence. Tends to lead toward coexistence. Whereas what you're saying about China is they don't do that.
No, yeah. So they do it differently. Their doctrines teach you not to confront the enemy. The best, I don't know the exact line from Sun Tzu, but if you can defeat your enemy without a single sword or a drop of blood or whatever, right? So what you could do is you have your enemy nation, you convince them not to reproduce anymore, or you lower their reproduction rates, convince their men to become women, convince their women to become men. All the youth are sterilizing each other. The ones that don't sterilize each other become gay, so they also don't reproduce. You've now reducing the population to non-replacement values. You can collapse the West instantly. And then on top of that, you hijack all of their political movements with your ideology, right? So like most people don't realize that BLM, the feminism movement, Antifa, and everyone.
She's upstairs. All right, keep going.
Yeah.
Good to see you. So my friend arrived.
Hello, friend.
Now, yeah, that's Chrissy.
So what happened was that you saw all the movements in the West actually adopt all the symbolism of the communist fist of power, right? So, and then if you go in and asked, and I created like a line. I've used this on the Whatever podcast when I did super chats. I had Chuck Ellis do this, find the video, where you would just ask the lefty, under the guise of dismantling whiteness and decolonization, would you side with China or America if they went to war? If China went under the moral authority of dismantling and ending "quote unquote" white supremacy, which side would you side with? And the left will almost always side with China.
Go ahead up. Yep. Go ahead up, Chrissy. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. So what? So what's happened is that so what's happened is that the allegiance of the people, the left in America, is with China. It's with I guess if you want to call it the Axis, we don't have a term for it yet. It's going to be with Palestine. It's going to be with Palestine, China, North Korea, Venezuela, Mexico, the cartels, right? And so you have this growing group, Iran. You have a growing group, and the Israel-Palestine situation is confusing for people because there has been a lot of deception and problems with Israel, but Israel is essentially a Western fortification into the Middle East so that we can actually occupy land there. And Israel uses us, we use Israel. And so what's happened is they've used that deception that's happened with that relationship over many years against us. And so even people on our side reject certain I guess American situations because of that problematic situation. Because I mean, it was what was after World War II. It was Churchill said that the biggest issue was Islam. Like you can actually look up this quote, and he specifically said the Middle East was a problem. Shortly after that, you suddenly have Israel being formed. The West is now dumping money in there, fortifying it. And then, like clockwork, 2-3 decades later, we're going to war with all these countries that are in the Middle East. Israel was a fortification, an outpost created by the West to launch a campaign into the Middle East to expand their power. That's it. With no emotional attachment to anything. And then through that, because America cares so much about that, they are willing to give the people of Israel certain powers and influence that they normally would never have gotten in that situation. Because if we lose that, we lose massive power throughout the world.
I heard a podcast last week that made this point that you're making about China's being an ally of the left, the political left in America.
Of course it is. Has been for a long time.
The other point he made, and tell me what you think of this, is that the right, Trump, the right of center, is headed toward an alignment with
Russia?
With maybe, but more with trying to the point that the takeaway that I took was that
you mean Argentina?
No. From his point was that the right is beginning to align with freedom, technology that brings sovereignty and privacy and freedom on the internet, where the left is doubling and tripling down on social scoring and surveillance and psychological control of the masses using the internet.
So right now, I think that most people are realizing that we're in a civil conflict in the world. It's global. It's not just in America. So what you're seeing is exactly right. So that you have two different groups of ideology. One saying we need to control it, and the West is taking on from their principles. Let's have a sovereign, free, and open internet, but we're still going to control certain things. But then the West, what we look at the West, I guess the conservatives, which is just the conservatives now are just the remaining Republic of America. It's not left or right. It's not Democrat or Republican. It's anyone that says, I still want to maintain the values of America. So, and that's why things get a little muddy. But it's also why you see the West, like our West, going and creating new alliances and stuff with like Argentina, right? Because a lot of their old alliances don't side with them ideologically. A lot of their old alliances, maybe it's Canada, parts of Canada, side now with China with their ideology. So you have two forces. You have America, the West, leading it, and then you have China, and neither of them can confront each other.
And you see it in Maine playing out with the Maine Wires journalism, exposing the very real presence of the Chinese Communist Party here in little old Maine, right? Here. Why would they care so much about Maine? And they obviously do, because Steve has exposed these connections between these marijuana grow houses.
Yeah.
It's all factual. It's all been documented.
Yeah.
China is here, and a lot of people, a lot of boomers, especially who pay attention to legacy media, they don't know about it because the legacy media doesn't cover it. They don't write about it or anything. So the younger people know about it, and so they're able to think these thoughts.
It's dangerous. It's actually when you say the younger people know about it, there's like a window where the really young people don't know about it because the internet's being controlled, and the boomers don't know about it. It's a range between like 30 and 50.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they don't. I've talked to a lot of younger people. They are involved. They've mastered being able to filter their attention away from these details.
Right, TikTok, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing as a bit of technology that's designed to distract.
Yeah,
it's designed to control.
Yeah.
Right in its essence, it's designed to control the attention of the individual who's using that device, that smartphone.
What do you know about the cartels and their new? So right now, if you ever look up I think it's called the Young or the New Cartel movement, and it's the fastest growing cartel group, and they're no longer focused on being a cartel. They're ideologically Marxists. I might have told you about this before, and so finally, I've been talking about this for 2 years. It wasn't mainstream on our side, so no one really heard about it or listened to me. But one of the most dangerous things is the new cartel being hijacked by the CCP. Enough people have now gone on Joe Rogan in the past 2 months to verify everything that I've been trying to tell people. You can probably find old posts where I talk about it. But the new cartel that's rising up, what they're doing is their strategy is to take over the schools in Mexico. And what they're doing is that they almost become like the revolutionaries, pretty much. They use drugs to fuel the revolution. And China funds quite a bit of it. And it's interesting. So like if you're the West and you're looking at your enemies, you have Eastern Canada, you have parts of Europe, you have Mexico, or at least the cartels with Mexico, you have Venezuela, and then you have obviously China, North Korea, Iran. It's interesting to start to see all the different players that are out there. And you go, is Trump doing the right things? Well, what's he doing? He's making moves against every one of those groups I just told you about. They know we're at war with them. So if you were to actually compile the list of people that are aligned or working directly for the CCP, the Trump administration, and this is actually what's gotten me on board with actually supporting what he's doing, is he's directly gone after all of these groups or countries. Specifically, what do you hear? He's going after Canada, right?
Keep talking. Keep talking.
Yeah.
No, the side. If you go out this door and go out, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
Okay. So, and this is probably getting sidetracked, but I wish more people knew about this. Okay. So when you go, is Trump doing the right thing? In the news, who have you seen him attack, and who have you seen the media defend? Trump's gone after Canada. Trump's gone after the cartels / Mexico. He's gone after who? Iran. He's gone after Venezuela, right? He's hitting their ships. He's gone after and tried to stop groups from like North Korea when they're getting involved in the Ukraine war. And then what's he doing? What if anyone even knows Marxism? The hard part is that people in the West don't even know any details about this. The doctrines specifically say that to overthrow the governments, you need to seize the cities first, right? So you take the cities because you have a concentration of all the population. From the cities, you can actually control the rural areas. The misconception is that the rural areas are stronger than the cities because of food production. It's actually incorrect. So one of the tactics of the Marxists in other countries when they overthrow it, is that they have the capitals or the large cities, and then they use it to actually cut off and corner different parts of the rural area, preventing them from being able to organize. So what's Trump doing? Sending National Guard in all the cities. I've been skeptical the entire time that Trump's been running. I didn't vote for him for the first 2 times. The third time I did vote for him, and it's because I saw him. I'm like, he finally, at least he's publicly getting it. He's calling out everything from China, and he's actually aggressively going after the issues that we're at war with China. Like that's what the situation is. Every single action that you can see, a lot of people they go, none of this makes sense. We're going to bring up the Jews in Israel and Palestine, and they come up with all this weird shit, but none of it makes sense, right? The only thing that makes sense is that we're at war with China. everything ideological is coming from China's version of Marxism, and the tactics used against the West are tactics that China used against its own people, like the Uyghurs and Tibet. Population control through birth, sterilization, everything that's happening to us that are like this weird, like indirect attack. Like why is this happening against Christians, and then using Muslims against other nations? Everything is actually tactics that are directly from China.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
that's
right.
That's a very plausible argument in geopolitical terms, for sure. And there's a lot I could add to it, but
no, add to it, because I'm trying to iron it out. Like,
and I do want to, but I want to do it we'll do another show.
Okay.
I promise to keep this below an hour, and I really want to pivot to Tim to talk about Tim, the truth slinger, because that's about Maine and stuff. I love geopolitics, just like you do, but
I know. Sorry.
No, that's okay. But my passion is really for Maine, and also for my hometown, which is Augusta, Hollowell. Right? You're in Hollowell. I'm in Chelsea. We're very near Augusta. Augusta is the capital city. You and Nick Blanchard and Tim, the truth slinger, even though he lives in the woods far north of here, you are focusing your political activity on Augusta Gardner, this capital city region, and obviously making a difference. I want you to comment on this. I observed this on the day that Charlie was killed. It happened to be the day that the school board in Augusta met. And I don't know if you were there or not, but Tim was there. Tim came out of the woods and came down, and he gave a 4-minute speech, and it's gone viral on Facebook. Probably because of you or whatever. So but anyway, it's gone viral.
1.4 million views.
Yeah, and it's just little old Augusta, right? 20,000 population, Augusta, Maine. Maine's a nothing kind of a state, and in terms of when you're talking about big powers moving and shifting, but it's our home. We care about it. And Tim came out of the woods and with his toothless look, because he's missing a tooth, looking every bit the hillbilly. He got up there and he read the riot act to the school board members. But here's what I want you to comment on. The issue has been this whole tranny nonsense, this whole DEI woke craziness. The nub of his argument, of the argument that he made in that rant against the school board, the Augusta school board, was free speech, and I thought it was a brilliant piece of political theater. I thought it was a brilliant piece of work, because it pivoted away at just the right moment from the trannyism thing, which we're all nervous about, worried about, and we don't support, and which animates, injects a lot of energy into the resistance. But he pivoted very effectively to free speech. And I think that's even a more powerful argument that we need to be doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on right now. And I thought Tim gave a masterclass in the pivot from trannyism, DEI, wokeism to free speech. Comment.
Yeah, it was. You kind of covered everything. You did a pretty good job covering it. Like it was weird. After watching it, we all felt something, right? So Tim had put out his video first, and what I like to do is I like to take the media and I go shorten it, and then I look at it and I go shorten it some more, because you only have so much of attention span. So I took it, I shortened it, I put it on Facebook. I was like, wow, this is a pretty good message. Like to me, it's about free speech, but it's also shows the social constructs in our society, and that it's just an illusion. It's a game that we play in society with people that we respect. They're part of the community. So for me, it's about free speech, but that's actually the smaller thing. I think what hit people was you have this woman that if we were in the wild, she'd have no ability to actually have any force or power over you, right? Mm-hmm. If we're in a tribe, we're out in the woods, society has created a social construct that feminism is a social construct that allows them to be on the equal playing field with men when it comes into this. And I actually support this social construct that allows all people to participate in society. What Tim displayed was what happens when that social construct goes away. The people that actually have power are not always the people that have power in that illusion of social constructs. Does this make sense? So what you're doing is you're deconstructing, and Tim's up there saying, no, I'm going to keep speaking. What are you going to do about it? You physically can't do a single thing. You can look over to that gentleman over there and beg him for help, but you don't have the ability to actually enforce anything. And if you don't want to play a game in community with us and then negotiate, then what's going to happen when we say, okay, we're just not going to listen to you anymore? Your power as a chair on a school board in Augusta, Maine is just a game that we play. It is literally just a game. And if you want to watch society keep breaking down, like what just happened with Charlie Kirk, Tim's message, whether he knew it or not, was kind of displaying the spirit of Charlie Kirk, going there and saying, hey, we want to play this negotiating game. What's your grievances? What's my grievances? Let's come together and try to meet halfway. If you no longer want to play that game, then we're back to force doctrine. Who has the more force?
That's true.
Right? And so now Trump's going around the country and getting National Guards in all the cities and states. None of them are actually rejecting his power. None of them are standing up to him. They're going, yes, sir, we're actually going to follow in power. That's Trump breaking down that social construct like Tim did. So anyway, so yeah, there's a lot to break down. You're gonna that video will be, there's a lot to unpack that you could do it for weeks upon weeks. A lot to unpack. Free speech, yes, it matters, but free. What is free speech? It's a social construct that we agree to adhere to, right?
Yeah. That's I hadn't thought of that point. I didn't watch. I hate to admit it, but I didn't watch the whole 4 minutes because I'm worse than anybody else when it comes to attention spans.
Me too.
And but I hadn't take. I didn't. So he actually said that in the speech. What you're saying?
No. Oh no. Well, but he just said, I'm just going to keep speaking. Right.
Okay.
So I guess maybe
so you're contextualizing. You're contextualizing okay.
Yeah.
And explaining.
So I think what he said was like fuck you. I can swear on there, right? He said fuck you.
Yes.
You know, like you. It's your ideology. He said something about like they're always saying like I don't feel safe, and then he was saying, well, I don't feel safe with your ideology. So he's kind of throwing it back at him. It was
Right.
I guess what's going on in my head is probably different than what people are seeing. I'm seeing like this like shadow of constructs within society. Like people are talking about free speech, but what is free speech? It's a social construct. Someone that has more power than you. If you and I are not in a negotiating factor, right? Like the left and the right are not anymore. Like we're breaking away from each other. Right. Why if you're my opponent or a possible opponent, like actual war opponent, we're not talking about like you're a different political person, but you're actually my enemy. I would never award you free speech. I would never award you the constitutional rights that I awarded the people that are within my community. Because why would I allow you to have the benefit to actually destroy my community, my civilization? If you're saying, and so I would actually, so what you would do is you would use force doctrine, force doctrine just means whoever has the most force. Doesn't mean physical force. It could be anything, right? Maybe it's population or whatever. And you just force the other group to not have the rights that they want to have or to strip them away. And this isn't a moral argument for either or. It's just what the reality of the world is. So as like the social constructs that we created in modern society fade away, you see everything going back to the original hierarchy of when we lived in tribes. And not to be mean, but women are generally at the bottom unless if there's a high status woman that maybe marries like or gets together with the chief. But generally what you have is you have the hierarchy of hunters, people that are stronger, that have the force that if you go against them, they will just put you down. That is and you see that and people go, you see that in Africa or South America, right? It's whoever has the most force.
So I started to notice this 40 some years ago when I was invited to be the executive director of the Christian Civic League of Maine, which goes all the way back to 1897 and was created at that time by a widely recognized and respected institution in Maine, which was the Protestant Christian Church, as it was then understood and as it was then embodied in the state of Maine. So back in 1897. But so I'm the leader of this group, this institution that goes back to 1897, and the institution at the board level and at the level of its leadership statewide decides through Western means, which is you have a board meeting, you have Robert's Rules of Order, you have a debate, you have a discussion, you come to a motion, you come to agreement, which can be non-unanimous. It can be, the majority wins under Robert's Rules of Order. So this institution comes to a conclusion regarding the idea that sexual orientation should be added to the Maine Human Rights Act. And the conclusion that they come to is this must be resisted at all costs. This is a bad idea for culture. This is a bad idea for Maine. And the reason we believe it's a bad idea is because of our religion. And so the organization, the institution, carries these ideas into the public square and wins dramatic victories, populist victories, statewide votes twice to say no. We said no to the governor, we said no to the majority of the legislature, and the people of Maine did that twice under my leadership as executive director with a degree in philosophy, making arguments similar to what you're making about the social construct idea. But here's the bottom line, what I noticed, what I learned 40 years ago, is that the political world of Maine has mastered the pivot away from a religious argument. They have mastered the pivot away from a religious argument. I was never able in the media or as a lobbyist in the legislature to have a meaningful discussion in religious terms based on religion, based on Christian or any religion, about the idea of adding sexual orientation to the Human Rights Act. They mastered the pivot away from religion as a substantive contributor to institutional Maine, the institutional realities of Maine, the law, the government, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's evil. They mastered that, and even today, Richard, you know this, we all know this. That's you can't talk about religion. There's an old maxim that boomers are familiar with. If the two things you can never discuss are religion and politics. Well, now the only thing you can discuss is politics. And the only thing you can't discuss is religion.
Because they wanted separation of church and state. They just wanted separation of church, right? Just permanently.
Just the destruction of religion as an institution. Destruction of it. It cannot exist as an institutional reality in Maine anymore. No. Religion is not allowed. It's forbidden, and soon it's going to be illegal. It's going to be illegal.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. But what's funny is that all the people voted, and they didn't care. They used force doctrine, right? To push it through. That is literally an example of force doctrine. They didn't physically go do anything, but they had more power. Like all the people were in this illusion that they had the power, and then the state goes, no, we're just taking away from you. And the people did not have the power.
And what happened was the majority of Maine looked at the whole debate over that decade-long period where it was on the front page, and they came to the conclusion that this is very Marxist, right? They came to the conclusion that I was the only one that had this particular set of beliefs, this particular set of principles related to everything gay or sexual orientation. That I literally, Michael Heath, was the only person in Maine who had this set of beliefs. And so they were able to convince even my base to separate themselves from me based on my tone and style.
Yeah.
I was mean. That's what they did. And any boomer that's watching this who paid attention back then is nodding their head vigorously right now and saying, I remember that. I remember when that happened. It was 20, 30 years ago. That's what happened. And now look at us. Now look at us.
Yeah.
The only thing that children are allowed to think seriously about when it comes to culture and society and morals is sexual orientation. That's it.
Yeah, that's a weird way when you put, man, when you frame it like that, that's odd. Yeah. The one thing that you were fighting against, now the only thing that they can talk about and focus on is that.
Especially if you're a kid, right? Especially if you're a child. Especially, by the way, if you're a child being raised by parents who are teaching you the old accepted dogmas of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And also, probably an argument can be made somewhat more loosely, I think, that with respect to sexuality, the dogmas of even Islam or of Eastern religions, at least some of them, not all of them, because these are not Christian religions, but the dogmas related to sexual morality, sexuality, are closer to the dogmas of Christianity than is this whole sexual orientation nonsense that we're living with. And right? Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. You get now. Let's map it on, right? Because you have all these leftists that say you are the bad guy, you're wrong because of your beliefs, right? And they go because you're homophobic, you hate all these people. So what do? They open the door. They open the doors to Islam to flood in, who actually have stricter and harsher values than you, and they have no problem with it. They don't actually care about any of these values. They only care about They only care about imposing the gender ideology on Western individuals. And you can see
why is that? It's because it's
a depopulation tactic. It's a depopulation initiative to actually destroy the West. People are starting to realize that, because otherwise, if you actually cared about these things, you would. Okay, here's what's funny. Let's go. You have Bowdoin, right? Bowdoin College.
Yep.
They said, absolutely not. We got to shut down the Charlie Kirk thing. He's a homophobic bigot. But then simultaneously, we're going to celebrate Palestine and stand with them who are homophobic bigots. Right? They don't actually care. They don't care. Yeah. They will only side with whatever's anti-West. In their head, and they know it. The people, our side has been manipulated to think that we're actually fighting against people that have values. No, when you look at an enemy and you go, I want to take them down, you don't actually have a moral framework to use against them. You use everything against them. So like they can simultaneously look at UK and Europe. They said the same things. Look at these evil Christians who are, being bigoted and homophobic. But then we're actually going to purposely bring in the cultures that support this, right? Mm-hmm. In mass amounts. And then what happens is that they take over the schools and they allow them, and you can look this up, the Muslim communities can actually opt out of transgender ideology and gender ideology. And all across the West, they're allowed to do it. But when a Christian does it, they're not allowed to. But when you map it on, it's just an attack on Western society. They don't actually care about the religious beliefs. They don't care that people are having sex with the same sex people. They just want to reduce your population. They want as many people to be gay as possible, and they want as many sterilizations. And they're effective. Okay, so Maine has one of the highest rates of LGBTQ community, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, we do have one of the highest rates, and they tout it and they love it. Maine has one of the worst replacement values. What's Maine's replacement value right now? 1.4, 1.6, something like that. It's actually one of the lowest, hands down, in the entire nation. Not only can we not even maintain our average population, every generation that happens, we're going to end up losing almost half of our population.
Yeah, we're Maine is literally committing suicide.
Yeah.
When I say that, I mean my people.
Yeah.
Maine, my people in Maine go back in Hollowell, by the way.
Yeah.
To the early 20th century, and we are literally choosing to kill our culture, to kill our history, to erase our history, to eliminate our traditions, to destroy ourselves, to destroy our neighborhoods, to destroy everything that matters to us. We are doing it. It's our fault. It's our responsibility that this is happening. We are doing it. And one of the big mechanisms that we created was this whole idea of anti-discrimination in the Maine Human Rights Act and in the government. That became a fundamental, ultimately powerful weapon in the destruction of Maine. And I've never, Richard, and I noticed Tim is still watching, I never, Tim or Richard, witnessed it as powerful as it is right now. It's never been as powerful as it is right now in Maine, in our state. And what do I mean? I mean this idea that sexual orientation is neutral, that nobody can make up their mind or bring any sort of moral reflection. Now, when I say this, Richard, I'm not saying you're right or wrong if you're gay or whatever. That's not my point. My point is, even the discussion, even the thoughts that would be informed by tradition or history or sexual ideas about sexual morality and marriage and family formation that go all the way back to the Greeks and the Romans. All of that cannot be discussed meaningfully.
None of it. All of it's being stripped away. And so what would be the map? How would you map this? Where's this attack coming from to destroy the West? Because it's only being used against us, right? It's not being mapped. Right. It's not being mapped onto Mexico or South America. It's not being mapped on Africa or China or any Asian countries. It's only Western culture.
Right. It's mapped onto Europe and the United States, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great question, and I want to answer it, but I want to do it in a show where we can keep going. We've been going six minutes.
So you have a Christian argument for the sexual orientation, transgender stuff. Well, what about the secular argument? The secular argument is they can't refute it. They don't want anyone to actually even come up with this. Is that they're tanking the replacement value. Means at 1.6 or 1.4, you'd have to Google it. But that is actually looking at data from people that are in their 20s right now. It's 10 times worse with the kids that are in the schools now. What's that number going to look like when the kids in school that are full on indoctrinated come out of those classrooms? 1.2, 1. Now you're actually hitting what China used to impose upon the people that they wanted to destroy. And it was so effective that they were able to wipe out entire populations within a couple generations. Like if you have a population of 500,000, and in one generation, you can ensure that it's only going to be 250,000 for the replacement, and then have that, and then have that. And then not only that, the remaining people that do exist, you get them to side with your ideology. You've actually just quartered your enemy over and over again, and then just dispatched to them. That's what's happening in America. You will not have any youth that will fight on your side. I mean, why do you think they took out Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, precisely. Charlie was the most dangerous voice representing limited constitutional Republican values and principles in America. Yeah. He was the most potent, the most powerful, because he was connecting those principles, those ideas to the youth, to the college-age youth. And that's the last thing China wants. That's the last thing that anybody interested in manipulating the empire, the United States empire, wants. They do not want limited constitutional Republican principles to emerge again in Maine or in America or in England or in Germany or in France or anywhere. They don't want it anywhere.
What duty does a male and what duty does a female have in their role to society? They're the thriving civilization. What is the duty of the male and what's the duty of the female? Because this is very distinct, right?
Great question. Yeah, the male. Right. The duty of the male is to protect, in my opinion, is to protect the infrastructure of the civilization, the legal, the political infrastructure of the civilization, which in Maine's case would mean that the males are going to step up and they're going to defend the Constitution of the state of Maine. They're going to they're going to understand the principles that inform that Constitution. They're going to believe that those principles are absolutely essential for the protection of future generations, for the protection of their wife and of their family in their home. They're going to understand that private property rights are what they are and that they exist because of the Constitution. And they're going to do whatever is necessary to defend those ideas, to defend that civilization. Men are going to do that. Yeah. Women, on the other hand, are going to do everything in their power within the home to make sure that the next generation understands those principles and embodies those principles and lives out those principles during an entire lifetime, which means what? They're going to be taught to marry, right, and have children and produce a future for that civilization. What a noble purpose for a woman, and what a noble purpose for a man. Am I wrong?
No, that's exactly what it is, right? If you boil it down, the duty of the female, the only duty that we say you must do is keep having babies and keep our replacement up. And this is going to be the most secular. The duty of the man is to be a meat shield for society, right? And the duty of the female is to be the meat producer. And this is not to disparage either one of them, but it's to disparage both of them simultaneously, right? Like we can laugh at it, but to have a functioning culture, you have to have those identifying duties and roles and genders. Because if you say, okay, well, the females, your duty no longer is to reproduce, but we're actually going to make your duty to partially defend and attack and then control this. And then if you can take those duties away, you can collapse the culture. That's all. When you boil it down to its smallest thing, if you can look at a culture and convince the men not to carry out their duty and the women not to carry out their duty, you destroyed them. You won. Yeah. And even further, if you facilitate the destruction of those duties, you are essentially a traitor and an enemy to that state, right? And so you need to make a moral argument that maybe that it's based in, a secular view, so that everyone can understand, is that that if you're purposely trying to get people to not reproduce or have birth or have some sort of level, like it's fine if News Center Maine is doing stuff saying like, like doing articles about how great it is to have children, but they don't. They sit there and they do articles about how great it is to be transgender or gay and stuff like that. They're pushing this ideology that will reduce the rate and destroy your society. And that's fine. Maybe some of them don't realize it, but when presented, and it's presented to them, what you're doing is destroying our society. You're becoming a traitor. Do you keep doing that, or do you change your ways? And that has to be presented to them as an option, as a way out. If they choose not to, and they choose to continue down the path knowing that they're destroying our society, they essentially become a traitor.
Right.
And an enemy to the state.
And this is what helps make you so potent with your skills and your tactics using the internet, is that your argument is deeply rooted in secular ideas, secular. And of course, secular, it's funny, secular is a religious idea. It's from the Middle Ages within the English language, because there was this, prior to the Protestant Reformation, there was the secular world of Europe and of the West, which was a religious term, secular was, because secular was the contrary to the men who entered into holy orders within Christianity. Those were called within the Roman Catholic tradition, the priests and those who enter into the sacrament of holy orders are part of one group, and then the other group of Catholic Christians are called secular. They're still religious, they're still Christian, but they're just secular. So, and what does that mean? Well, they're not called the holy orders. They're not monks. They're not priests. They're not whatever. They're not part of that. So, but this whole secular rooting your arguments and your work in secular constructs is really helpful. Right.
Well, I mean,
It's
if I was a
it's almost essential now. It's almost
Yeah.
essential.
if I was a ruler of a nation and there's a massive movement of people trying to convince all the other citizens not to reproduce, to sterilize themselves and to change their gender and to put my nation or my kingdom at risk of absolute destruction to the enemies around me, and they simultaneously wasn't doing it to my adversaries, then I would look at them and I'd say, you are the enemy of our state. You either need to immediately change course, or you're revealing yourself as an enemy, and that's what the left has done. And then it's not. And then it's this moment with Charlie Kirk is symbolic, where everyone's seeing it, where you have someone that has the gay transgender ideology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just when it took out the Christian that was actually convincing people to get married, have children, do better, lift up the Western spirit, and reignite the flame of the West, where we can be a functioning society. The other person's like, no, you're my enemy. Shut it down. And that was two individuals from both sides that just fought. And it's interesting. There's a lot to unpack from it.
There sure is. There sure is. And the most important principles that get unpacked as we continue to have conversations like this, made possible by the internet, are the religious principles, regardless of what your religion is, or no religion. Doesn't matter. The point is where we're going to gain the most, the fastest in terms of preserving and saving Maine is by talking about these things that we, the boomers especially, have decided to make off limits. They shouldn't, obviously they shouldn't be off limits, because every boomer who's hearing my voice right now is thinking, oh, I love my country because we believe in political and religious free speech. The ones who understand what the First Amendment really means as a principle and as a law. They take it for granted that political and religion are the subject matter of the First Amendment. It's not all things that are free to speak about. You're not allowed to scream fire in a movie theater if there's no fire.
That's a myth. You can.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the point is it is legitimate for a state to circumscribe speech for certain reasons, but the First Amendment is specifically there so that the citizenry is protected in the discussion of political and religious free ideas. We're supposed to be able to have a free flowing debate, discussion, disagreement about those things. So we can still do that about politics, right? No, we can't really, but that's what they tell us. They tell us, oh yes, politics and everything's political, but we definitely, everybody agrees, we can't talk about religion. Well, yes, we can. All you have to do is start doing it.
That's it. That's all.
That's it. Just start talking about it. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care. Talk about it. Let's start talking about it.
That's all you have to do. Well,
that's what Charlie represents, right?
Yeah. Well, you have these lefties that are going, "Oh, I thought you guys cared about free speech. Why are you trying to get people fired?" Well, I'm using my free speech to let the world know what you said, right? I'm not against free speech. I'm not telling the government to come get you. I'm literally using free speech to let the world know what you said. Now it's your defense. Now you have to defend it. But we're not just using free speech. We're using free speech to elevate who you are. We're giving you the biggest platform in the world. At the Maine X community, we don't silence anyone. If you want to sit there and celebrate his death, we're going to give you a pedestal and let you yell it to the world. You're gonna eat those consequences, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. That's exactly. Well, it's like my idea for the Augusta School Board, right? They've been doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on all these arcane rules and things, and I got thinking about it, and I thought, look, the perfect way to fix Augusta School Board, this tiny little problem that we have, is to put the public comment section at the front of the meeting. Just put it at the front, because some people don't want to stay for all the arcane bureaucratic discussions, and they shouldn't have to. If they're a member of the public, they're taking time to come, let them speak at the beginning. And then, of course, the other big problem is the 2-minute rule. Well, we don't need any limit on time. All the chairman has to do is be empowered to say after however many minutes if they feel it's getting boring or dry, or if it's inappropriate or whatever, the chairman says, all right, show of hands, everybody in the room, not just the school board, everybody in the room, show of hands. Is this enough? Majority wins. Majority wins. That solves all the problems, right?
Well, yeah, I think you'd have different problems with that, but
why?
Well,
Anyway.
they could just get a bunch of people on their side and just use majority rule. That's actually that was the weakness that brought down Greece, right? And then Rome tried to correct that. Direct democracy always leads to other pains.
But under the circumstances, I think it could probably work because nobody wants to go to these meetings.
They don't. They hate them. It's torture.
And Nick Blanchard is starting to show that he can draw bodies to these meetings, right? He's actually leading he's taking it over.
Man. It's the problem with the left is that this is I guess a white pill for us, is that the left is an illusion. They create the illusion that they have power within operating as the administrative class. They can only operate as a parasite host or as a parasite in the host. And they're using the power, right? So picture this parasite inside the host, and they're constrained by the functions that the host gives them. So let's just say you have like this random 70-year-old lady that gets as a chair. She doesn't actually have any power. She's just like an insect sitting there asking for the power. And Trump's showing that by just saying, I'm just going to take the National Guard and we're going to go to every one of those cities. And all of you Democrat socialists that think you have power, you have no power. I think part of what he's doing is it's called peaceful display of power, right? Mm-hmm. Is that he's going to these cities and he's testing the waters. Will the National Guard stand up to me or will they obey my orders? Who are they obeying more? The Democrat socialists or are they obeying Trump? There's not been any case where I think they've had one or two National Guard members that posted bad stuff and they got rid of them. And so what they're doing is they're going around just showing that these people don't have any actual real power. The only power they have is actually the power that we've given them through this community discussion of social constructs.
Right.
That's it.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. That's all they have.
For 20 years, I was almost front page news. For at least 10 years of that, I was pretty reliably front page news in the mainstream media. This was before the internet was a thing. It was nowhere near what it is today. And one of the things that never happened to me was a fair and comprehensive biography of me. Mm-hmm. Never. So 10 years, front page news, winning populist battles more than once on one issue, on the most controversial issue, what's now become the most controversial issue of the West, which is this whole idea of trannyizing our kids. And that was my issue back then in its form back then. But never, not once, was there a journalist, an objective and fair journalist in Maine who produced a fair and unbiased biography of me, of what motivated me, of why I was doing what I was doing, whatever the Christian stuff. The only thing that ever got done that had any depth to it was in Down East magazine, and it was a hit piece on me personally. It was a hit piece. That was it. Never once did the people of Maine. Remember, this was before the internet, so I couldn't. Websites weren't even really a thing. They were just becoming a thing. The only thing I could do was email, and I was using that. In fact, I'll leave you with this. In 2004, after the people of Maine had rejected adding sexual orientation to the Maine Human Rights Act twice in statewide voting, they kept coming. And so I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, who's they? Who is it that's coming? Well, it's the people in the state house. It's the politics of Maine that are coming. So I said, I'm going to put, and this was just when websites were starting to become a thing. I said, I'm going to publish a website, and I'm going to ask every person who works in the state house what their sexual orientation is, and I'm going to publish it. Because if it's this benign, safe, happy face category, then everybody in the state house should be really happy and wanting to have it published, no matter what it is. And I said, what I'm going to say as my sexual orientation is I'm married. I'm married to a woman. But at that point, we didn't have same-sex marriage as an issue. So I published that, and the next day I was front page news statewide, being condemned.
Oh my
And
God.
statewide, I mean, top of the fold news. And it was unbelievable. I'd never experienced such hate in such a short, condensed period of time. And it kind of, it rocked my equilibrium, within me. It rocked it. It was like, wow, I didn't get it. So I didn't do it. I apologized, and that was a mistake, apologizing. And then it just, and then I lasted a few more years, but the truth means nothing to the forces that are controlling our youth right now, that are in our schools, that are, and superintendent on down, all of them, they are not there to protect and to educate our youth in Maine. They're not there for that. They've been thoroughly DEI-ized. Mm-hmm. They've bought into the lie. They've bought it hook, line, and sinker. Now, which is not to say, Richard, that this can't change. People can. I, as a Christian, believe in redemption. I believe that people can change on a dime. They can change. Yeah. They can wake up. They can wake up. They can change. They can pursue what's good, true, and beautiful overnight. And that's what I pray for every day, is that that's what's going to happen, especially with the adults who have control, who have this power position over our youth. This has got to change. This has got to change in the hearts and minds of thousands of Maine people overnight. And may the Charlie Kirk assassination be the match that lights the fuse, that leads to the explosion, that saves our schools and our educational system and our state, right?
Yeah, it's tough because we get some wins. Here's the biggest issue, and I'll let you go. Not the biggest issue, but one of the biggest ones that people aren't talking about. So through FOIA requests, I saw a conversation from staff at Gorham, Maine. They were upset about the outcome of the mock elections in the state. The kids overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. Their only conclusion was that the internet was radicalizing them. And since then, and this is done through a study, since then, they've actually started banning cell phones all throughout the country, all like simultaneously. And what happened was that they came to this conclusion and then people are like, well, but the kids aren't paying attention. That's true. But if you're saying that the kids are being indoctrinated into this insanity, don't you want them to not be paying attention? And so the left has come to the conclusion. And so they did this in Europe, in Australia. They actually did use it as a testing ground. They started banning cell phones all across up there. What was the next move after they banned cell phones in schools? They banned social media for the kids, right? Until 16.
Yeah, so that's what this whole KYC movement is about. Know your customer. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now you have these kids, and yes, logically it makes sense for us to not want the kids on the internet in a normal time, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We just went 30 years with the internet, and no one even made a single move to try to freaking do this for the children. Why are they doing it now? They're doing it now because they realize the indoctrination level is not working unless they can get them off their cell phones, get them off social media. And then by the time they're 16 or 17, they're so brainwashed that they actually can't even hear what someone else is saying. And it's the next move of the left is to do that. And they are doing it effectively, right? When was the last time you saw a video clip of a school or a picture from the Maine Wire that showed like the pride flags and trans flags all throughout the classroom? We used to have content nonstop. We get nothing from the schools because it's essentially banned to have a cell phone. They take your cell phone when you enter that building and they lock it up. Yeah, like right now is probably the most dangerous time for that to happen because the left knows that they're against the wall. They're going to try to go overtime and program these kids as fast as they can and as hard as they can. They will. Mark my words. This is their push.
Good point. I agree with you completely. And obviously there's proven risks to cell phone use, especially scrolling. There's proven risks to using it, but in my opinion, the risks are worth it to make sure that youth are able to control their attachment to this. You know,
well,
we have to start early with them, or else, for example, if we put all these draconian controls on them when they're very young, what's going to happen is when they get it, it's going to be like crack cocaine. It's going to be like crack cocaine.
Why can't we have cameras in the classrums? And then you FOIA request them. Why not? Right?
I agree.
But they won't.
I agree.
This is where our side.
Why can't we have cameras in the polling places? Why can't we have cameras wherever you've got public business taking place? There should be cameras.
And when they say no, that's where you look. Seriously, that's what I've learned. When they say no, that's where you look.
That's right. That's where you look. Yeah, that's where you look. You've been great, generous with your time. I promised less than an hour, and we went an hour and 30 minutes. And it's been so much fun having this conversation. And thank you so much for what you do. It's, as I said at the beginning, when I introduced you, you're the most potent political internet force in Maine. So keep it up, and I hope this video goes viral and lots more people learn about you. And we can save our state.
Yeah. Maine's more important than most people know.
I'm ending the stream